Jordan Bohannon, Jared Stansberry. It's Jared and J-Bo on Iowa Everywhere. This is Iowa Everywhere.
Yo, welcome into the podcast. Saturday morning edition of the podcast. We were busy a lot this week. What's up, Jordan? How's it going, man?
I'm kind of digging these Saturday vibes. We started on right now. You screaming at me over text. It's just a great weekend.
What did I do?
You screamed at me over text.
I don't think that I screamed. I don't think I even used an exclamation point. I think I just scolded you with profanity.
It was
yeah.
You screamed at me. It's fine.
I apologize for screaming at you. I want you to hear what I'm saying, not how I'm saying it. Like a coach would say, you know.
That's a Fred McCaffrey quote if I've ever heard one.
Yeah, I imagine that's one that you have to hear from Coach McCaffrey at some point. Yeah.
Oh, every day.
I think that my dad was the first person who ever said that to me as a coach.
Good coach?
Yeah, well, he was. My dad was a good coach when we were younger. He didn't coach in high school or anything, but no, we got a lot to talk about today. Iowa State and Iowa both with some wins this week. They do both play this weekend. I don't know how much we'll talk about those games just because of the nature of when we're recording, but let's start with Iowa. Another win over Ohio State earlier this week on Thursday night, coming off a win over Minnesota. I mean, I watched that entire game, and the only thing I could think about is what the hell is wrong with Ohio State right now? Like, what has gone wrong? Because that team looked really good early in the year, and like Bryce Sensabaugh had been playing really well. Man, something has gone really wrong for them. It's somewhere along the line. Not to take anything away from Iowa, but it just was. I don't know, like if what you thought watching that. I was just really taken aback by their situation right now.
Ohio State reminds me of like Texas Tech in the Big 12, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're very capable of having a really great year, but for whatever reason, I think, and Ohio State's had a lot of injuries. Zed Key was going down like every other minute with his shoulder in the Iowa game, which I felt bad for. But yeah, it's tough at this, especially this point of the season when you have injuries and you're a team that's in a slump like that in conference play. Like they dropped 6 in a row, then they just dropped the 7th one here to Iowa, and you're dealing with injuries on top of that. It's like the whole world is kind of crashing down on you at this point, and I mean, there's really not much you can do for Ohio State. I mean, they have a lot of great players, but that's just not their year.
Believe me, I understand. I covered a team that lost 18 in a row, so yeah. I get it. You know, I can sympathize with the folks over in Columbus. But no, it just was a workmanlike week, I felt like, for Iowa. Like, you had 2 games that you couldn't afford to lose. You know, Minnesota is not a good team, and then Ohio State is not a good team right now either, but you just handle your business, and now you've got a big one coming up tomorrow against Northwestern, who's been playing really well here as of late as well. I mean, what do you like about what you saw from Iowa this week?
I think the diversification of their scoring output is the main story here. I think the fact that Chris Murray has kind of had the burden let off his shoulders. I feel like since he's came back from his injury, some guys had the chance to step up during that time frame. And I believe we talked about that exact thing, that there's going to have to be like Tony Perkins stepping up big time during that time frame. And now I think that created a lot of confidence for these guys. That, I mean, granted, Coach McCaffrey's only playing 7 guys realistically right now. So I think that might be trouble to make a run in postseason play, but I mean, the top teams always play around 7 to 8. But the fact that we've had those guys that step up and play meaningful minutes, and guys that do come in, they support in a huge way. You know, Connor was pretty much on a triple-double watch this last game, and someone that you probably didn't expect this year to really have much of an output, and he's really stepped up his game. I think he's been a huge factor on them going on this little streak, and they're inching closer to those 11 games I think it takes to get in the NCAA tournament. I don't, as good as they are in their standings in the conference play, I don't think they're in yet. They have to just finish business, and I think they will. But Northwestern is going to be a tough task. they've already lost. They already beat them once. It's really hard to beat a team twice in the Big Ten.
Yeah, Northwestern, since they got their little 2-week break, been playing really well. It must be nice to be able to take 2 weeks off in the middle of the season and then come back well rested for the Big Ten stretch run.
Funny how that works.
It's funny how that works.
But Minnesota took a week off, and
yeah, well, I think Minnesota was too far gone. Let's be honest.
I do really like Northwestern and Coach Collins. I've always been a huge Coach Collins fan. He's one of my favorite in the Big Ten. Man, he turned that program around. Like,
and then they got Boo Booey, man. All that guy's first team all name in college basketball. All name team, yeah. Boo Booey. I
feel like Adij has been there for 17 years. Is that how it felt like when I was playing college basketball? Like,
yes,
okay.
Yes,
all right.
Yes.
That's all I need to know.
Yeah, you're part of the Perry Ellis team. Not, I don't know, maybe not Perry Ellis' team. Perry Ellis first team All-American in that sense of the his career feeling like it lasted forever, but that's because Perry looked like he was 42 when he was like 19, you know. So you don't have that going against you, at least.
I feel like the thing with me, I played the most games in college basketball history, right? I think I don't look old though. Like, is that bad? Am I?
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's the difference. Like some guys look old, you know. Like Greg Oden, it does not look like you should have played 6 years of college basketball and Greg Oden played 1. You know, like Greg Oden looked like he was 35 when he was 18 years old.
Okay, I was gonna have like a middle age crisis already at the age of 25. I just feel like I have the most baby face out of all the people that played a lot of college basketball.
I'm trying to think of other guys that were like that looked old. Man, Perry Ellis is just the only one that I can really think of. Like, that guy was around forever. I don't know. I'm sure people thought that about George, when he was at Iowa State as well. How many games did you play in? What was your career total?
178, I think.
Okay, I was to say Ashley Jones played in 149 the other night, and that's a new Big 12 record.
Connor just played in his 159th last game too.
That's crazy, man. That's a lot of basketball games. There's a lot of college basketball. Those are some records that will never be broken, ever.
Don't ever say never.
Those deserve asterisks in the record book. It's like Barry Bonds with his home runs. You guys were
I hate
the steroids equivalent.
I hate that argument.
What, that Barry Bonds should have an asterisk in the record books?
Well,
or
that
you
too,
should.
both of them. Well, Barry Bonds, you still got to hit the fucking home runs. Like, it doesn't matter if you took steroids or not. You still got to hit them.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
For you still got to be healthy enough to play the games. Is that what you're saying? I mean, I'm just saying that there's not that many times that people are going to get that opportunity. You know, the COVID year will be everyone having the extra year will be an anomaly in the history of college sports.
Correct.
Yeah.
But you still have to produce.
Well, I was kidding. I'm not saying that there really needs to be an asterisk. I'm just saying that it's funny, like that there will be a stretch where records will all be kind of knocked out of whack because of these people who got extra years, you know.
I still can't get over, because I still see it on Twitter of some guys that are the 5th and 6th years this year. Of the 50 and 45 plus year old reporters and commentators calling all these kids out on TV and on social media. I'm like, yo, you guys are literally 20 years older than these kids, and you're calling them old on national television and on social media. That is the most I don't know. I just think that's really messed up in my opinion.
There's a guy that plays quarterback at the University of North Texas who was in the same high school class as me. And is going to be a junior at North Texas. And so that's the only time that I'll say anything. I'm like, I've been out of college for 7 years at this point, and this guy's going to be a junior at North Texas. And we graduated high school at the same time.
But a lot of Utah and Utah State, a lot of those guys are your age. People don't talk about that.
I don't know about Utah, but maybe at BYU. Yeah.
Utah State.
I don't think people do missions at Utah State.
Dude, I literally played against Utah State. Their scouting report was 24, 25, 26.
How old do you think I am?
Like 37.
I like how you said they're all the same age as you, and then they're 24, 25. I was like, that's not close. That's not how old.
But that was back the first of my 7 senior
when you were 18. Yeah. No, I definitely I know for sure BYU's got those guys because Jimmer Fredette had to go. He had to leave for a year to go.
Yeah, Utah State does too. Mission. I thought it was all Mormon.
I don't think that everyone in Utah is a Mormon.
It is a large percentage. I looked it up when I was in Salt Lake City.
Well, I think it certainly is, but I don't think that every single person who's there is a Mormon.
It is a very large percentage, Jared.
How many people? You know.
It's not every single person, but it is a very large percentage. I think it's over half.
Of course, when I typed in how many people in Utah, 68.55%.
That's insane, right?
I wonder what the entire population of the state is.
How crazy is that? Almost 70% of the population of Utah is Mormon.
It estimated 2 million people. Okay, but let's think about this. To go play football at the University of Utah, how many of those kids do you think are from Utah? How prosperous of how fertile of a recruiting ground is Utah?
Very rich.
Have you ever? Well, you said you'd been to Salt Lake. Have you ever been to the rest of Utah?
Dude, I don't think you realize Utah is just Salt Lake City and suburbs around it. There's nothing else.
I don't think that's a fertile recruiting ground. That's what I'm trying to tell you. That's not a good.
Okay.
I'm looking it up. 247 Sports.
I literally played against Utah State. I know these guys were fucking old.
I'm telling you right now, this is not a place where people you don't just all of a sudden you go to Utah and now you're Mormon.
Sure, when you're 24 years old and you're going into college to play college basketball, they're gonna recruit you because you're fucking old.
Well, I mean, I don't think that that's necessarily true all the time.
I disagree.
So you're saying that if I have friends who didn't play any college basketball and now today they decided that they wanted to play, that means that they're going to be able to get onto a team? You understand how dumb that sounds?
That's not what I said. Don't do that.
That is exactly what you just said. That's exactly what you said. You said if someone is 24 and they want to play college basketball, they're going to recruit them because they're grown men. Because they're grown men. There are 4 kids from Utah that are going to play Division I college basketball next year. 4.
All right, let's look up. Why don't we look up Utah State's starting lineup?
All right.
And then
who's their coach now? Who's Utah State's coach now?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it's someone that we know, someone that is notable. The Utah State basketball roster. All right, 1 guy from Utah. There's 2. All right. There's a guy from Australia, a guy from England, a guy from Ukraine, Poland, North Carolina, Maryland, 4 people from Utah, 5, Pennsylvania. This guy's from Bahrain, England, and Utah. Basically, they have 6 guys from Utah, 6 guys from all over the world, and then 1 guy from North Carolina.
6 guys is a lot. What are we talking about here?
I mean,
to say
let's look at the roster.
They have 6 guys in their.
We're looking at the state. We're looking at the statistics to see which of these guys are actually playing that are from Utah.
It doesn't matter. There's 6 guys that are playing a Division
that one
basketball
does.
Team.
That's 1. That guy's from Pennsylvania. That guy's from England. Guy's from Ukraine. Australia. Sean Bairstow. I wonder if he's related to Cameron Bairstow.
He was there when I played against him.
Yeah, a couple of these guys from Utah play, but most of them do not. So this is how different is this from the guys from Iowa that are walk-ons at Iowa or at Iowa State?
I think you're taking away something from walk-ons now.
No, I'm not taking anything away from walk-ons. I'm just saying, let's not pretend here that Utah's pumping out All-Americans.
So now you're changing to All-Americans. They had 6 guys from Utah.
What do we define to be a fertile recruiting ground?
Guys that go Division I. I would say that's pretty fucking fertile in my opinion.
At the university, we got more people from the state of Iowa that are going to play Division I than they do in Utah. And no one would call the state of Iowa a fertile recruiting state. No one.
There's 4 guys on University of Utah's team too. So, I mean, that's pretty impressive as well.
How many of them play?
That's not the argument, Jared. They're on a Division I basketball team.
That's not – dude, that doesn't make a place a fertile recruiting ground.
Yes, it does.
No, it does not. No, it does not. No, it does not. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Utah State's
That's why Utah State's best players are coming from all over the fucking world, dude. Like, they have to go to fucking Bahrain to get good players.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, and they're probably Mormon too. That's probably why. That's where the whole argument started.
No. If you saw this guy, you would know he's not a Mormon.
Oh, so now we're discriminating on looks.
I'm not. Mormons do. You ever watched any of those documentaries, bro? How they talk about the Gentiles?
Apparently not.
You don't know anything about Mormonism, okay?
I'm just saying, I think you're taking...
Hey, go educate yourself on the Church of the Latter-day Saints and then come back to me, all right?
I think you need to educate yourself on Utah basketball because I'm standing. I'm a stand.
I'm going to have people in my mentions like, oh, you think that Utah basketball is not any good, you fucking idiot? They'll be like, yeah, that's exactly what I fucking think. That's exactly what I think.
I mean, I just don't understand how you don't.
Do you think that South Dakota is a fertile recruiting ground as well?
Well, I mean, that's really not what our argument was, to be honest.
No, I'm just like throwing it out there. I'm just trying to think of places that don't really produce players that might have a school who is good that does have players from that state. That's one that I can think of. But like they don't pump out like big time players in South Dakota, you know.
Yeah, like, but they're still guys.
I think Iowa State brought in a kid that is going to be in this next class. That's from South Dakota. He's the first kid in like 30 years that's signed with Iowa State from South Dakota, which is like, you know, obviously that's pretty rare for that to be happening. Then they just don't produce Division I players very often. I wonder where the last
kid from Salt Lake City is to go to Iowa or Iowa State.
To go to Iowa or Iowa State, I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that has – oh, the best part of this, I'm just looking at this now. 3 of the 4 who are like high-rated recruits for this next class all go to Wasatch Academy, which is a prep school, and 2 of them are from Texas, so they're not actually from Utah.
So why would they say they're from Utah?
Because they play at Wasatch Academy.
Okay, but even the roster on ESPN for both the teams, those guys are from Utah.
I'm looking at the 247 recruiting rankings, not the teams.
I know, but I'm saying.
But this kid, RJ Jones, who's going to Kansas State next year. I'm going to imagine that when he's listed on the roster, it will say he's from Denton, Texas, not that he's from Wasatch, Utah.
Right. I know. I'm agreeing.
So that no one would ever even know that he was from Utah. So there's one kid who's actually from Utah that will be on our college roster listed with Utah.
Okay, but all these guys were from Utah that we just were talking about.
Yeah, none of them are. That's what I'm trying to say to you is like maybe one of those guys was like a legitimate Division I recruit. Like I'm sure those other guys are good players. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm sure that they could go to the Citadel and be great or something like go to VMI. You know, they do great. But they're not Power 5 recruits. Like that's what I'm trying to say. That's not a fertile recruiting ground.
Okay. But I don't know what you want me to say. I feel like I gave all my facts and evidence to prove my point, and you're still screaming at the cloud that it's raining. I don't know.
I mean, you're still wrong. Like Texas is a fertile recruiting ground, not
I'm
Utah.
not wrong. That wasn't the art. First of all, we talk about how many Mormons are in Utah. They're like, no, there's not. There's not that many. And then we said how many.
I never said there's not that. That would be a stupid thing for me to say. There's not that many Mormons in Utah. That'd be a stupid thing for me to say.
Everyone's not a Mormon.
Because everyone's not. Everyone's not. There's 33% of people that are not.
I have these flyers next to me, and my nose is. I want to throw up. I don't know.
I'm just saying. You make broad general statements. I bring the facts.
Next topic.
Does Iowa beat Northwestern tomorrow?
I'm always betting on my Hawks. It's gonna be a tough one.
Did they beat Wisconsin on Wednesday?
Another tough one. This is why am struggling with these next two games is because of the streak they've been on. It is really hard to stay hot in the Big Ten for this long amount of time. So I am skeptical, but if they continue playing like they have been and we don't get a game like they put up against I'm blanking.
Who? Wisconsin or Northwestern? Which one are you thinking of?
Who they played 3 games ago?
Iowa.
Yeah.
Purdue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't play bad against Purdue, but if they play to that standard, they're not going to win these two games. They're going to have to play their best basketball to beat Northwestern and Wisconsin. Two big games too. This ultimately they're still in the running for first place in the Big Ten because you don't know what's going to happen with Purdue. They've lost 3 of the last 4. There are only 2. I think Purdue has 4 losses. Iowa has 6. It's doable to win the Big Ten 14-6. It really is.
Yeah, it's doable. The only downside is that Purdue does play 3 of their last 4 at Mackey Arena.
Yeah,
I think Iowa plays 3 of their last 5 on the road. But the 2 they do get at home are probably good ones to get at home. You get Michigan State at home, and then you finish the year with Nebraska, who actually has been playing pretty good ball again. All of a sudden, I think they've won 3 or 4. All right, let's flip things over to Iowa State. Of course, all of our basketball conversation brought to you by Sweet Caroline's Kitchen and Cocktails on Main Street in Ames. It's a perfect place to go before or after Iowa State home games, anytime the Cyclones are on the road or anytime the Hawkeyes are in action. It's a great spot for late-night fun with a Southern-inspired menu with a great collection of burgers, sandwiches, wings, and, of course, Caroline's famous fried chicken. The atmosphere is incredible with plenty of TVs to watch any game on your radar, and there's a party room available for rent for your next big gathering. That's Sweet Caroline's Kitchen and Cocktails at 316 Main Street in Ames, the presenting sponsor of all of our basketball conversation here on the podcast. Are you throwing a fit still because of our conversation about Utah, or are you done now?
I didn't have a fit. I don't like when people act like how you did. Bothers me, but that's okay. I still like you. Like, we're still friends, but at the end of the day, you're wrong. I was right.
Bothers you that I was right?
No,
I was right.
It's hard for me as an intelligent human being to communicate with peasantry over there.
Peasantry. Oh man, I had a woman come up to me when I went to the We Will event for Iowa State a couple weeks ago, and she told me that we swear too much. She said actually she didn't say we swear too much. She said we use the F word too much, which is probably a fair criticism. She's not going to be impressed with the conversation about Utah, I don't think.
Shout out to the old lady though for.
She came up to me on Wednesday night. She said, "You guys did a great job last week. We regressed."
Oh, I don't think we definitely didn't. We went back to the mean.
Yeah, we went back to the more realistic place at which we will generally live. All right, Iowa State has lost 2 of their last 4, but did win on Wednesday against TCU. Again, a TCU team that's just a shell of themselves right now. They're going to get back to Mike Miles this week, or later today, but Wednesday night they were a shell of themselves. But for Iowa State, just to be able to get a win was obviously huge. There are just some things right now about this team that are kind of concerning. I think just some trends with, you look at the way Gabe Kalsch's played over the last couple of weeks. You see what Caleb Groh's been doing since he's come back from his injury. Just some red flags. Not like I think the sky is falling, but some problems that I think could become bigger issues as the season moves along here these last couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing I was saying about Iowa. Iowa State got really hot for a good amount of time in the conference play. And I mean, everyone knows how basketball and sports works. Like, you're always going to come down from a winning streak or some type of streak, and you just don't know when. Like, there's going to be a run in a game. You don't know when the team's going to make the run, and you got to respond. So I'm still not worried about the Iowa State team. I think they're still capable of making a deep run in the postseason play. but they're going to have to figure things out quickly because they're not the same team that they were mid-season play in conference and early season conference. The pieces are there, though. I don't want – I hate when teams – this is one of my biggest pet peeve about fans critiquing teams. I mean, obviously you know basketball a little better, so you're not probably saying the same argument, but they're in a losing they're in a rough patch right now with how they're playing. But at the end of the day, the pieces are there, and the fact that they've done it already against really good teams is a promising thing for postseason playing going into these next few weeks. So I don't think there's any reason to ever doubt that these guys or ever think that they're going to end this season on a really rough patch like how they're playing right now. So I don't know. I think the same thing with Iowa. Iowa and Iowa State are really two similar teams, I think, this year. They just have flip-flop on offense and defense.
Yeah. I just think the unfortunate, like, to me, when I talk about like red flags for the end of the season and things like that, I mean, for one thing, they play at Kansas State, at Texas, and at Baylor in their last 5 games. Like, that's recipe for disaster for anybody in college basketball to have to make those 3 road trips in a couple of weeks. And it's like, I'm not really that worried about them for the postseason because I know that a lot of the teams they've been playing for the last 2 months are way better than any team that they're going to get lined up against in the NCAA tournament. You know, like the odds of them playing a team as good as Oklahoma State even seem slim, like in the first round of the dance, you know, at least on paper or whatever, if you want to say that. But it just is. It's where you see some of the things that I think with some frustration things that seem to have been happening, especially that Oklahoma State game. It felt like there was a lot of frustration that came out in that game. And that's just, you have to figure out a way to get just get good vibes going again, you know, because I feel like that's kind of been what's missing. It's like everybody's pressing because you've lost a couple games, you know, and you start to feel that pressure from the fans and from people around you. And, man, it does make me really sad to see the way that some of the fans have talked about some of the guys on Iowa State's team. Like, the treatment that Robert Jones gets on the internet makes me fucking sick, dude. Makes me fucking sick to see the things that people say about him, in the way that they criticize him, in the way that they will, like, man, that guy's got a family that could be on the internet. Like, that guy has, and man, it just is, it borders on being like, just being a fucking dickhead and not being like, being a fan that might be kind of upset. And I just want people to think about that sometimes, because I think that's really unfortunate for a guy that is, all he does is play really hard for Iowa State and try really hard, and for people to just shit on him all the time. Like, that's just, it's really fucked up. Get a fucking life. That's what I'm going to say. If you like are that worried about it, then get a fucking life.
I think that's just like what describes fans, honestly, as a whole. That's just not some Iowa State fans or some troll on the outside. I think as soon as they get a taste of victory and beating top teams in the country, this goes with any types of sports, football, basketball, and anything. They want to be at that level every single game, and realistically, that's not possible. Like, Alabama football might be the only team ever in college sports history, UConn women's basketball maybe as well, that those fans can get on their players, because they've proven every single game out they are playing that exact same way. But I mean, what are we talking about here? We're talking about like a kid that all he does is 100% give his all every single game out, in a team that 2 years ago you didn't even think this team would be in the place they are.
Yeah.
This program.
And the program literally didn't win a conference game 2 years ago.
Didn't win a conference game 2 years ago. And they're in this position now to potentially, I mean, we're looking with the opportunities they have here, they could run themselves into a 4-3 seed area. Yeah. If they
go to back-to-back, you go from not winning a conference game to going to back-to-back Sweet 16s. And people are bitching about Robert Jones.
Yeah.
Like, get the fuck out of here, man. You know? And it's like, again, like you said, like a guy who, man, I'm sure that even Robert Jones, if you sat him down and had a conversation with him, would tell you that compared to like Jonathan Chachua and like guys from Musa Cisse and like he's going to tell you even himself, I'm limited, but that's why he plays the way that he does, you know, and why he does the things he does is because he understands who he is and his limitations. Are there times like that he maybe takes a shot that he shouldn't? Sure. But everybody on the team does that, you know, everybody in college basketball does that. And anyone who has this expectation for their players to be perfect is going to be really disappointed because that just is not, at the end of the day, they're college players, you know, and you can't have this expectation that like Robert Jones is going to be Joel Embiid. Like you're going to be really mad a lot of the time. And that's why I say get a life. Like you need to find something else to have a better hobby because this one is only going to frustrate you, you know, if that's what your expectation for people is going to be.
Yeah. And it's one thing to go after a kid that puts up 25 points and 12 rebounds a game, and he is a dominant force. Like, if Luka Garza, I'm sure Luka Garza would say this personally to us if we were asking him this. And if he had a game his senior year at Iowa and he went 0 for 17 and had he had 0 points, 7 rebounds, I guarantee you he would respect the criticism that he took. But we're looking at a guy that doesn't deserve any criticism based off what he's given to your guys' program. And that's shameful.
Right. It's like, you know, it was funny to me after Saturday, and I'm not going to like single anybody out. I'm going to speak kind of generally, but it's like Iowa State's backcourt combined to go like 5 of 25 from three or from the field. And then I've got people in my mentions bitching about Robert Jones's minutes. And I'm like, yo, folks, we're having the wrong conversation here, you know? And it's just like, and again, like I'm not trying to knock any of Iowa State's guards because those guys have bailed Iowa State out a lot. Like Iowa State would not be in the position that they're in without those guys. And the way that they play is a big reason for that. But it's just like you can't come out of a game and just automatically just be like, oh, I'm going to shit on the guy that doesn't look like he belongs out there because he's not a freak athlete and like is just like a hustler, you know? That just is stupid. Like have some higher basketball acumen, have some higher like understanding of what you're watching, just like even a minuscule amount. And like, how do you watch so much basketball and not have a better understanding of those things? It just drives me crazy.
And realistically, I guarantee you, Jared, 75% of the fans that are criticizing Robert or other players that have had bad games don't even watch the game. They look at the stat sheet. They're like, oh, this guy was blah, blah, blah from the field. He had blah, blah, blah. Didn't watch any of the game. Or if they did watch the game, they have no idea what the fuck they're looking at.
Right. And the only thing I think you can knock any of those guys on is that they foul way too much. And that would be a fair criticism for literally anyone on that team. They foul too much.
But really,
and that's
is that even like a criticism though?
That's just an objective fact. Like that is an objective fact that they foul too much. They have 4 front court players who play. 3 of them average 6.5 or more fouls per 40 minutes. Unacceptable. They have a guy who is averaging 7.7 fouls per 40 minutes, and people wonder why he doesn't play more. Maybe because the second that he walks on the court, he's a fucking walking foul. You know? Like,
I don't know, man.
Man. He plays 3 minutes and picks up 3 fouls. Why is this guy not out there more?
I love the guys like that on my team. I always want a guy come in and get a ruffle the feathers a little bit, get 3 quick ones
until
what's up.
Until you've put him in the bonus with 16 minutes left in the second half of a game like Iowa State did against West Virginia last week.
That's not a recipe for a win.
Yeah, no, not a recipe for a win when you've got the other team in the – well, and then it doesn't help that Iowa State, when they go to the free throw line, they get into the bonus and it's like a turnover. The being in the single bonus is a turnover.
That should be a stat. Turnover from a missed 1-1.
Oh, Iowa State was basically 0 for 8 on 1-for-1s because they missed the front end of 4 straight 1-and-1s in the second half.
I'm not going to lie, though. That first free throw on a 1-on-1 is pretty stressful. So.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, I get it. Don't get me wrong. I get it. But it was like Caleb Grill, who's like a 90% free throw shooter, goes and misses 2 of them, you know? And you're like, all right, man. Like, we got to knock them down sometimes. All right. I don't think that Iowa State probably wins that game today or wins their game on Wednesday. But I think
I think they get one.
I don't know. Maybe they could win today. Kansas State hasn't been playing very well. But, man, to go down and beat Texas in Austin, especially after the way that first game went, Caleb Grill's going to be public enemy number 1 at the Moody Center. Like, it's just going to be – that'll be a raucous environment. That will be a no love lost type of evening.
I hope Caleb Grill does shit like that again. I don't know. Maybe it's just because how the type of player I was. I want to see stuff like that.
Oh, I'm sure that if Caleb knocks down a couple shots, he's gonna be letting them know.
One's down at half court, right at the 18-minute mark in the first half. I would die laughing.
I hope his back feels better than what it appeared to feel on Wednesday, because he was laboring. It felt like. All right, a couple things, or really one more thing before we sign off. This story was too good to ignore. So this came from. Man, I can't remember the guy's name. I found this on Twitter, but he tweeted the other day during the Louisville, Virginia game. Per UVA radio, John Freeman, UVA, the game ball was flat at the end of regulation, half the regular PSI. UVA's Ben Vanderplas and Kihei Clark said the ball was flat in the second half. Vanderplas said he showed an official how his fingers pushed into it late in the game. And then I found this story from that same reporter. How flat was the basketball at the end of Virginia's 61-58 road win at Louisville? According to UVA radio announcer John Freeman, the ball measured 2.8 PSI about 7 minutes after the game's conclusion, well below the normal pressure. NBA basketballs must be inflated between 7.5 and 8.5 PSI. NCAA rules regulate the balls based on weight with a maximum weight of 22 ounces. This is the best part. On the game's final play, an odd possession where Louisville did not attempt to get a shot off at the buzzer, Cardinals forward J.J. Traynor gave the ball one dribble and it stayed down on the court, not bouncing up.
It's absurd.
The ball was basically a third of the correct PCI, and they played the entire game with it.
I didn't watch the game. Did you watch that game?
No, but it sounds like it was a really horrible game. Like, everyone shot the ball really horribly, and they apparently couldn't dribble the ball because it was flat. 2.8 PSI, like, compared to whatever they said, like 7.5 or 8.5, like, that's a flat ball. That ball has no air in it, Yeah. That's literally a flat ball. That's the ball you go to the rec center, you're looking at the balls on the rack, you're picking them up, and it pushes halfway in, and you're like, oh yeah, no one's played with that ball in years.
It's squeezed between the cages, like, of the rails.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have my little official moment here though for a second. I know it'll go for full circle here. I don't understand how these fucking people in black and white don't do anything about it.
Yeah.
They touch the ball, every dead ball. They have the ball. They're in their hands. They have people complaining about it. What the fuck are they doing? How do you not really? Oh, maybe we just switch the ball. Like, there's an extra ball on the sideline that is literally for the outside public. I have a brief story, Jared. Hear me out for a second. Before every game, the ref comes up to either one of the point guards. So I would always get a bunch of basketballs, and I'm like, hey, I want this one, game ball 1, this one, game ball 2. All right, I got it, sir. All right, I got it, sir. All right, I got it, sir. 179 times that happened. Actually, 178 times. There's one game out of the 179 games that a ref said no to a game ball that not only did I agree with, but the other point guard on the opposing team agree with, and he went with game ball 2. And we're like, are you playing the basketball game or are we playing the basketball game? First off, I don't know who's playing the basketball game. So this is full circle. I don't know. I think this is a ref's fault for them not realizing that the PSI was wrong. And 2, the players are literally they're asking, the ball's flat, man.
Right.
You're not the one dribbling it.
That's my bigger issue, is that there's a point where Ben Vanderplas looks at the guy, pushes his fingers into the ball, and the referee either looked at it and did nothing, or looked at it and just 1, 2, kept counting, like, keep going on, like, I don't know, man, not my problem, when it's like, no, that's literally your problem. That's why you're here. Switch the ball.
Their ego's too big, dude. I've been saying this for fucking years. Ever since I was in college, they don't listen to the players. Their ego is way too big. They're getting paid so much money per game. They're traveling around the country. They're not listening to players about the basketball game.
These guys have to be flying private, right? Like, they have to be.
I mean, we talked about it. It's a travel expense. They're all independent contractors. They write it off on their tax documents.
Because it just seems like there's no way that you could get to some of these places as fast as they do without. Yeah.
I'm tired of ego in general, but how refs have been acting in college basketball. Because it's getting to the point, dude, where Boborowski is probably like the biggest example, but I liked him. I didn't think he was that bad of an official. But refs making the game about them. Yeah. Because that's what happened here at Virginia, Jared. Like, the game was about them. If they're not willing to listen to the players about the basketball. But how many issues have there been about refs in college basketball again this year?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean,
like, it's absurd.
Over and over again. Yeah.
I'm just getting tired of it.
That's where we have to figure out a way to bring it under the conference structure where the conferences pay for the officials, and then there's like legitimate oversight of them, not just, oh yeah, this is what we're telling our guys, no, you're actually holding people accountable. Everybody's watching film. There's decisions made on how we're going to officiate certain games with certain teams to try and keep shit fair, Like, it just is. I just feel like right now it's all just scattershot. Like, every game somebody shows up, someone like Roger Ayers could show up. Roger Ayers could call one game one night where there's 4 fouls, and then he could call a game the next night where there's 50. You know, and I understand. Oh yeah, some teams foul more than others, but the things that they call, there's times where you see officials who call things that aren't there. And that's one thing I like about John Higgins. I feel like he doesn't call fouls that he doesn't see very often. When a lot of officials call a foul whether they see it or not because they just think that there was a foul there,
Yeah. I don't know. I think the issue has long extended past this before this year too. So I was reading an article out of I think it was Australia, the NBL. There's a ref that missed a call late in the game and he got suspended. I think it was 3 games. I would have to pull up the article and know the exact details. I don't want to misspeak, but why can't we do that in the NBA or college basketball?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Did they ever suspend those guys who missed the call at the end of the Lakers-Celtics game? I know they apologized for it, but I don't know if they ever suspended them.
I never heard of an official getting suspended in the NBA other than Donahue for cheating on basketball games.
Betting, yeah. I do think there's been issues with the balls, too. I think that, I don't know if it's been flat balls, but there has been something weird going on with the balls sometimes. I know that before the West Virginia-Iowa State game, they had to switch the ball out because the guys didn't like it. So I don't know what the deal is with that either. I don't know. You would be able to speak to this better than I would, but the balls at the NCAA tournament last year, I heard from some people that those balls were complete dog shit. And that's how do we have horrible basketballs for the biggest basketball tournament on the fucking planet?
Yeah, I told myself I wasn't going to go down this road because we outright.
No. I'm opening the door for you to talk about this because I think this is a legitimate conversation that should have been had at this time a year ago about these basketballs.
I don't think I've ever mentioned about anything about the Richmond game, so this would be first thing ever. But the basketballs at that tournament, dude, I don't know. First of all, I haven't spoken to a single player that's played in the NCAA tournament that year that liked the basketballs that they had, first off. But 2, the thing with the NCAA tournament, and this extends before that year too, they have, you have brand new courts, brand new logos on the floor, brand new rims, brand new nets, everything is new on the floor, right? And then you have these basketballs that are inflated all the way up. I guarantee they're all the way up to 8.5, and they haven't been used once. So there's that, right? You got to deal with all the new shit, and that's a factor, right? The logos on the floor, that's a factor because they're more slippery on one side of the floor than the other when you step on a logo. The rims are tight, the nets are so short and
obviously a first world problem, but still a problem.
Yeah. Right, still a problem. It's different. And then you add basketball on top of it that is literally you cannot dribble the ball. Like how I normally dribble the basketball, like I've always like pound like you obviously I don't know how to
Yeah,
explain it.
no,
Like people
no.
that play
I was gonna
basketball.
say anybody who doesn't remember this, like find like a YouTube video of like highlights 2022 NCAA March Madness. Watch someone dribble the ball when they're running out in transition. The
Yes.
way they would try and push the ball out in front of them, realize that they couldn't do it, and then you end up with everyone dribbling like with their fingers all spread out, like weirdo style, looking like they're in like the fourth grade
Yeah.
trying to dribble the basketball. That was the moment I knew. I watched, I think it was Isaiah Brackington trying to dribble like that in transition, and I was like, oh my God, like what the hell is going on with the ball, you know? And it's like so clear that people can dribble the basketball can't dribble the ball. And I'm like, well, I don't think that the Monstars showed up and took these guys' talent. So like something has to be going on here with the basketball.
That's what it feels like too. Like you feel like your dribbling skills are down in the toilet. Like someone took your skills. Because I mean, I know I can dribble the basketball. Like I have a fucking like 3-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. Like I'm just not gonna dribble the ball and it's gonna go off my foot, or I'm gonna go between the legs. The ball's gonna go up into my head. Like, but that's what happened. Like I don't know why it's so hard to get that right though. Like it's not that hard of an issue to fix, but for whatever reason, like we can use the same basketballs, but let us break them in like before we get to the NCAA tournament. Deflate them just a little bit so they're not at 8-5. I don't know. It seems too easy to fix. Maybe that's what it is.
Those balls were obnoxiously orange too. That was that was another red flag. You knew something was going to go wrong when those balls were like neon orange, you know.
It looked like a playground ball on TV.
Yeah, it looked like the ball that someone they're like, "Hey, we got to get some balls for this tournament." And they sent someone to Walmart to buy the MacGyver balls.
Yeah. No, it's exactly what they felt like too.
Oh man! All right,
on
dude.
The biggest stage in the country too, Jared.
The biggest basketball tournament on the planet.
Yes,
and bigger than the Olympics. We can't get a good basketball.
I will say this too. I always hated like NBA basketballs. I know they switched to Wilson now, but man, I'm grown. I'm a grown man now, and I've grown on to my basketball game. They're my favorite basketball I've ever used now.
The Wilsons?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are my favorite too. That's what I have. I have a
I think it's not Wilson like Evolution. The NBA, like the leather, you know what I'm saying? Like it's not there's not a lot of grip to it.
Yeah.
But you think about it, I was watching, dude, this is a great, this kind of goes along with what we're talking about. I was watching the Iowa game last was it Thursday? And I saw the amount of bad bounces that just stuck on the rim or like rolled in still or like some sort of weird bounce. Now let's think about it. There's that giant ass Tiger Hawk logo that's emboldened onto the ball, right? And then there's the Elite. No, this is gonna make sense in a second. And then there's the Nike Elite big ass letters that are emboldened onto the ball.
Yeah.
And like there's like a I don't know what the exact difference is, but like if you move your finger on the ball, like your finger would go into the ball, right? Because it's
indentions. Yeah.
So I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh my, I don't know why I didn't think about this before. But first, like if you catch the ball and your middle finger is on like the Tiger Hawk, like that's a difference because your hand's going into the ball basically.
Well, it's a different material too, isn't it?
It's a totally different material. It's not even the same leather. And then like there's a ball that Peyton Sanford shot in the first half, and it smacked the back of the rim and just fell right in. Like you could tell the ball landed on that logo perfectly, indented into the rim, indented into the backboard, and fell straight into the hoop. Like great for Iowa, but now I understand why NBA uses these types of balls because everything is one. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no like I don't know how I didn't think about this before, but it's one. People that are listening to us, watch the next college basketball game, and you guys will know what I'm talking about.
Didn't they try to change the ball for 1 year, like 10 years ago, 10, 15 years ago or something like that? And all the NBA players were like, yeah, we can't do this. You got to change it back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it lasted 1 year. I think they had a composite ball, and then they're like, no, we're not doing that. Not doing that.
It makes so much sense now, dude. I'm wiser now. I get it.
All right, man. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. hopefully we'll talk to you again next week after some more wins. All right.
Go Hawks, go Cyclones.
Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you guys again soon. Peace.